For decades, she was the Duchess of York, the red-haired royal who fell from grace, picked herself up, and built a brand on resilience. But empires built on sand eventually wash away with the tide, and today the tide is in. 6 companies, 6 silent corporate vessels registered in her name for over a decade are now being struck from the official record. Not because they failed, not because they traded poorly, but because the name attached to them has become something the commercial world can no longer afford to touch. Welcome back. In the last 48 hours, documents filed with Companies House have revealed that 6 companies linked to Sarah Ferguson, the former Duchess of York, are being wound down. The companies are S. Phoenix Events, Fergie's Farm, La Luna Investments, Solomoon Ltd., Philanthropreneur Ltd., and Planet Partners Productions Ltd. On paper, this sounds like routine corporate housekeeping, but in the context of the last 3 weeks, it is the sound of a house collapsing. Let's be clear about what these companies actually were. None of them had a public profile. Most were classed as dormant, with little or no reported commercial activity. One was related to public relations, another to retail. Fergie's Farm, set up in 2014, was reportedly an attempt to emulate King Charles's Duchy Originals, a line of high-end organic produce for supermarkets. Planet Partners Productions, incorporated in 2009, was originally Sarah Ferguson Limited, set up to manage her television appearances, book deals, and speaking engagements. S. Phoenix Events served as a platform for her public appearances and brand events. These weren't massive corporations. They were the corporate scaffolding of a personal brand. And here's the detail that reveals the timing. The applications to strike these companies off the register were filed on February 13th and February 16th, 2026. That's less than 3 weeks after the U.S. Department of Justice released a fresh tranche of the so-called Epstein files on January 30th. For the 6th company, S. Phoenix Events, Ferguson herself is listed as the person who authenticated the application on behalf of the company. This isn't a creditor forcing closure. This is the Duchess herself pulling the plug. Now, let's connect the dots that the palace spin machine would prefer to keep separate. The Epstein files didn't just reveal Andrew's continued contact with the convicted sex offender. They laid bare Sarah Ferguson's desperation in ways that are now commercially fatal. Email after email, year after year, the correspondence shows Ferguson telling Epstein how desperate she felt over her financial difficulties while he was still in jail for soliciting prostitution from a minor. She asked for his advice on dealing with a reported £6 million debt pile. In May 2010, she pleaded, "But why I don't understand, don't you just get me to be your house assistant? I am the most capable and desperately need the money. Please, Jeffrey, think about it." In January 2010, she wrote, "You are a legend. I really don't have the words to describe my love, gratitude for your generosity and kindness. XX, I am at your service. Just marry me." This is the language of a woman who wasn't just acquainted with a convicted pedophile. She was emotionally and financially entangled with him. And these weren't ancient history emails from the 1990s. These were from 2009, 2010, 2011, years after Epstein's conviction. The files also reveal a planned business venture that would have fundamentally tied Ferguson's brand to Epstein. There were plans for Epstein to own a majority stake of her women's empowerment brand, Mother's Army, after his child sex offense conviction. A women's empowerment brand majority owned by a convicted sex offender. This is not poor judgment. This is a category of desperation that defies comprehension. The commercial fallout has been swift and merciless. Days after the January release, Sarah Ferguson's foundation, Sarah's Trust, announced it would close for the foreseeable future after some months of discussion. But the company's closures tell a different story. These applications were filed in the days immediately after the Epstein revelations. This isn't a pre-planned strategic retreat. This is damage control in real time. And the damage extends far beyond these 6 companies. Ferguson remains an active director of 3 other businesses registered with Companies House: Ginger and Moss, a lifestyle brand selling tea, jewelry, and homeware; Coat, a motion picture production company; and Librasol, classified under artistic creation. The question hanging over those 3 is whether they can survive the contagion. Late last year, documents show Ferguson submitted an official change to her details for all her firms. She changed her name from Sarah, Duchess of York, to Sarah Margaret Ferguson. A quiet dispelling, stripping away the title that once opened doors. Now, those doors are closing anyway. 7 charities have already dropped her as a patron or ambassador. Julia's House, a children's hospice, was the first to remove her, saying it was inappropriate for her to continue. The Teenage Cancer Trust, Natasha Allergy Research Foundation, National Foundation for Retired Service Animals, Prevent Breast Cancer, and the British Heart Foundation have all followed. The charitable infrastructure she spent years building has evaporated in weeks. The winding down of these 6 companies is not, in isolation, a massive financial event. Most were dormant. Their assets, where listed, were often just £1 or £100. But that's the point. These weren't active, thriving businesses being strategically closed. They were dormant vessels quietly existing until the name on their registration became a liability. Sarah Ferguson built a post-royal career on reinvention, on being the ex-wife who stayed friends, on writing children's books and appearing on chat shows and selling tea and jam. But the Epstein files have done something that financial ruin and divorce and tabloid scandals never could. It has made her commercially radioactive. A source close to the situation put it bluntly. She is 66 and has no home and no discernible income. The public is disgusted by what they have read. And how would she pay a new PR team to rescue her reputation? She is said to be looking to bounce back in typical Fergie style. I'm not sure the public will buy it. The companies are being struck off the register in 10 days, unless legal cause is shown to prevent it. 10 days for a miracle. 10 days for a reprieve, but the court of public opinion has already delivered its verdict, and the name on those corporate documents, Sarah Margaret Ferguson, is now a brand no amount of reinvention can save. Thanks for watching.